Hi, beautiful souls. This is Sadhana. Welcome to my channel and welcome back to my subscribers. This is a video that has been requested since I did my first court card video where I selected a few decks that I think really help to understand the essence and the energy of the court cards. But where I really want to go with this series, I'm sure it's going to turn into a series because I have a lot that I want to share with you, is to really understand how I read the court cards and how my kind of yogic perspective of our challenges, the things that we're working through, appears in the tarot, and just to really, get a handle on all of that. And with a great variety of decks, I think I'm going to use these four as my base, but I will pull in other decks to kind of illustrate my points if I feel necessary. And if there's particular decks that you would like me to include because the images are challenging or you're not quite sure about something that I'm talking about, then please leave those questions in the description box below, and I will either reply to you individually or I will include that in a subsequent video. So because I wanted to include a variety, we've got the Naked Heart on the left, so by Gillian Wilde, and then Eleanor Piper's New Elements Arrow is next to that. And then we have the Green Witch Tarot by Anne Mora and the Tarot of the She by Emily Carding. And you'll find that these decks are very, very different in their intention and their energy, but I think that the court cards in these decks really have enough feeling, enough, the design is done well so that you can get cues and clues from the backgrounds, from the emotions, from the expression, or from keywords in the case of Tarot of the She. So we're going to start with the pages. We're going to start specifically with the Page of Swords. We'll look at the Page of Swords in relation to her entire family as well as the other pages. So I'm going to take this really slowly, and feel free to, fast forward where you want to fast forward, and let me know if there's any bits that I've left out or other questions that you have, once I'm kind of done here. I would love to do this live, but it's just so much information. So first of all, starting with the children in general, the daughters, the pages, whatever they're called. And in the Tarot of the She, you'll see the suits have been renamed. So the suit of swords is called Dreamer, which is a wonderful suit name to help us kind of tune into the ethereal quality, the mindfulness, the focus on the mind, and also the lack of grounding that is all pervasive throughout the suit of swords. What I wanted to say about all of the pages, of course, is all of the pages are connected traditionally to the element of earth, which means that they are comfortable in the element of earth. It means they're not very far away from the element of earth, even if they are a Page of Swords, for example. So that what that means is that they are grounded. It means they're connected to their home and to their family, and they're comfortable in that environment. And it also represents their youth, in that stepping away from the environment of the home is perhaps a little bit uncomfortable, except of course maybe for the Page of Fire, but it's just something to keep in mind what the base element of each of the 16 court cards is. Another thing that I want to say right off the bat is that the 16 characters, the 16 archetypes, energies that are represented by the court cards are all part of one energy. And that at any given time, regardless of your age, your gender, your geographical location, regardless of any of your circumstances, any of those 16 faces can represent you. It can mirror back something within you that you need to focus on, that you need to see at this particular moment in time. So I think where people often get stumped with the court cards is, well, is this somebody else or is this me? And from a yogic perspective, all of our relationships, everybody that walks into our life, everybody who we work with, everybody in our family, especially if it's a partner, they are the most challenging people in our life, especially the challenging ones, they're reflecting back things within ourselves that we need to work on, or that we need to kind of, revise, things that we need to do a little differently. Those challenging people are there to teach you a lesson. And so sometimes those lessons come from a more youthful perspective, and sometimes they come from an older perspective. Sometimes they come from a softer, traditionally called feminine perspective, and sometimes they come from a more active, fiery, traditionally called masculine perspective. I don't want to get hung up on the feminine masculine thing in this video. My stand on this is that we all are both, and that in order to be balanced and whole and healthy and well, we need to be as comfortable in that kind of soft, gentle, reflective, meditative energy as we are in our active, domineering, fiery energy. And I don't really see them as, a male and female. It's just it's a quality that we all need to embody in balance. Qualities that we all need to embody in balance. So with the daughter of air, her energy is really beginning to explore the element of air, of course, but there's also an ethereal quality to this suit, and all throughout the Suit of Swords. The Suit of Swords is connected to air, and in the teachings of yoga, the element of air is the heart chakra. And I think this is a really important concept to wrap your mind around, because a lot of the challenges in the Suit of Swords have to do with connecting heart and mind. And the imbalance in the Suit of Swords comes from being too much in the head and not in the heart. And so we can work through all of the energies in this suit by bringing that into balance. And what is between the heart and the mind in the physical body is the throat. And so we often assume that this suit is reflective of the throat. And yes, indeed it is as well too. But technically in the teachings of yoga, air is heart, throat is ether. And then there's this other confounding factor, which is that some people like to associate ether with the major arcana. And yes, in one aspect that's true, but if you allow yourself a little more flexibility, this Suit of Swords is a very powerful, growing, energetic suit that we learn to weave these challenging, lessons of air and ether and heart and throat and mind together. So this daughter of Athens here is so focused on her sword, equally as focused as the daughter of air in the New Era elements. And she is at the beginning stage of learning rituals and spells, and she's practicing here out in nature on her own, supported by the energy of the plants, the trees, the wisdom of the owls, the intuitive energy of the moon is with her, and you could just feel it. It's just such a beautifully drawn card. If you look here, you can see her focus, right? The way she's looking at the sword. And when I look at her, I begin to understand that she's contemplating the conundrum, really, of the double-edged sword and what that means. And so we're here at the beginning levels of really perfecting our communication, learning how to be skillful with words. And I think the energy of this court is definitely intelligent. There's a natural leaning towards intelligence, perhaps lacking a little in emotional intelligence. And so it's important for all of the courts in this, for all of the aspects of this court, to really learn about the difference between wisdom and intelligence, and to contemplate that. So, and here we are, we're at the beginning of this journey. in this deck here, we have, which is really nice, the reference to the earth and the air. We have the sacred geometry here, which is it's really beautiful and helps to kind of focus the energy. And the fact that we have the black cats for the suit of swords is really, it's quite profound, actually. The black cat, the panther, the jaguar is an animal of the direction of the West in the shamanic teaching. And we learn through the lessons of this cat about how to track and how to come into right relationship with death, and how to see and find and respect the gold and the teachings of the most challenging aspects of life that we have to go through. So it's a really great animal to have in the suit of swords. The key word here, gift of telling, is a great keyword to begin us on this journey of understanding what communication is all about, and learning to, we're at the beginning stages of becoming a wordsmith. And I imagine that this daughter of air here is the kind of kid who has a large vocabulary. And you might find her at the library, or you might find her in a fort under a bunch of blankets in her room, with a book, practicing pronouncing multisyllabic words. Or maybe she's the kind of kid that plays school and she loves to do spelling tests. That's the kind of child that I imagine she or he or they, however they identify. And so this could be you, right? This could be you at the beginning as an adult. Maybe you've gone to a new job and you are doing a presentation for the first time, or you're feeling really nervous about speaking in front of your peers. And so this kind of energy could appear, much later in life, not just only as a youth or representing a youth. It might also be reflected by a son or a daughter who is mirroring this back to you for some reason. Maybe you need to remember about when you were like that, or because you need to have more empathy for your own child, or who knows, there's so many different scenarios, but this is the beginning of the journey of bringing balance into and between and among the heart, the throat, and the mind. And innate intelligence is definitely a part of this. And again, really finding that balance between the mind, the wisdom of the ages, and the book knowledge. That's very, very much a part of navigating the courts in this suit. So here's her brother. So the more active masculine energy, youthful, active masculine energy, and you can see he is also very mindful and focused and looking at something that is straight ahead. Here's her mother, or you can call her like the more mature evolution of her energy. And she is equally focused, but there's a lot of emotion in her face. And almost to me looks like she has come to a place where she doesn't have to focus so hard. It comes more naturally. And she is, for a queen of air, she has a lot of emotion in her face. And there's something about that card that really appeals to me, because I think the queen of air sometimes stifles her emotion because she has to put on a certain facade. And here she's allowing herself to, to reveal that emotion. And here you see quite a gentle Father of Swords, King of Swords, and he is wise beyond his years, and he's moved from that energy of just beginning to understand what it means to be intelligent, and his leadership really shows through in his wisdom. And while he is still very much the Father of Air, he's definitely not as rough around the edges, shall we say, as the daughter or the son of air. Have a look here at the daughter of fire in contrast, where the daughter of air is focused on the sword, focused on all that she has to learn from using the sword, from wielding the sword, from the messages and the deep energy and the wisdom of the sword. The daughter of fire is looking at you. She's connecting with you, and she's comfortable with that personal connection. Can you see that? With throughout the suit of swords, the courts in the suit of swords, that is not their forte. Their forte is not connecting with people. Sometimes they can be quite socially awkward, and it's difficult to look people straight in the eye. It's difficult to be warm with people. They are most comfortable focusing on their studies, focusing on their words, focusing on what they've learned and sharing what they've learned. Where the daughter of fire has this inner fire, this inner passion that she's willing to share and relate and be with. She can move very, very quickly, not as quickly as the rest of those in her court, but she has quite a different energy from the daughter of air. The daughter of fire is, yes, she's very courageous, and she's adventurous, and she's the kind, or he's the kind of child that you will see outside the home. Perhaps this child wanders out the front door in the morning and goes off on their own adventure and just kind of, makes their own play, makes their own day. They don't need to be entertained. They really don't need to be overscheduled and have too many lessons and be going from, soccer to ballet and all that kind of stuff. They're actually happier, and they learn more out in the world, learning on their own and making their own adventures. They can get into lots of trouble, and they like to move quickly, and they like to change their activities from time to time, which is another reason that putting this kind of child into a schedule isn't a great idea, because often we have to commit to a half a year or a full year or even several years, when we're learning something like we're doing a gymnastics program or whatever it is. And so this child could want to change activities quite quickly, and this child probably will be quite good at everything that they do. They have this fiery sense of there's something that this mesh, this melding between their boundless energy and their creativity, which makes them resilient. It makes them do really, really well. When they do crash, they crash quickly, and they need to recover, because sometimes their energy is so intense that their rest and recovery needs to be equally intense. Okay, so let's go back to this. So we have a younger energy, a more youthful energy connected to the earth, comfortable in the earth, which you can definitely see in all of these cards, or you can feel it in all of these cards. However, this is a child of fire. So when we have the element of earth and the element of fire, one doesn't necessarily fuel the other it's kind of a neutral combination, I guess is what I want to say. So it's a very positive card, very different than the Page of Swords. So there's also a playful energy, and you can kind of see that none of these decks really illustrate that well. I'm thinking of the Page of Swords just let me get a couple for you. All right, here's one here. Here's the Page of Wands from the Textured Tarot. And here is the Page of Wands from the Osho Zen. And you can see that sense of playfulness, the lightness in their step. Even here in the Page of Wands in the Green Witch, you can see this. He's very focused on what he's doing and creating his magic and helping to heal the plants, perhaps. But also, I get from the donkey that's in the background, there's just, a willingness to be very light about the results and not being attached to the results. And I think that's the kind of energy we get here. This warrior princess here looks very, very focused on her task at hand. And she is playing, maybe for the first time, with a arrow, a flaming arrow. And this is very risky. It's very, it's dangerous, but she's also stepping into that edge of courageousness. And in this deck, the pages do not appear very young compared to the other kind of the decks that we're going to look at. They're quite mature. The princesses and the princesses and the princes in the Tarot of the She. Yeah. So we get the creativity here. We definitely get the creativity here, but there's definitely a lightness to the step. And I feel like a very barefoot energy, which I said connects this child to the element of earth. Let's have a look at this princess in relationship to the rest of her family. Here is the father of fire. So we have the warrior king. Here's the warrior mother. And here's the warrior son. And although the fire element is very dominant in all of these cards, you can see that the color blue, so the color of water, the balancing element of water, the artist has brought into all of the cards except for the king. And the king's keyword is the gift of glory. So I guess what I want you to see here is what this warrior princess is moving towards, and what the rest of her family looks like, and the kind of family that she lives in, and the kind of energy that she's in all the time. So it comes naturally, right? It's easy to have that kind of spirit, really. And let's contrast her to the Maker Princess. So the Princess of Earth. The Princess of Earth is the double earth element. So you can see her here on the earth, and like I said in this deck, they don't appear to be very youthful. So she actually has a pregnant belly here, representing the energy of the earth and the earth mother kind of energy. And she's actually sitting down on the dirt, and there's no movement. We've got lots of color green and things like that. So sometimes just by putting two cards side by side, it gives you an opportunity to really kind of feel the difference between the Princess of Fire or the Page of Fire and the Page of Pentacles. Here is your Daughter of Earth. So we have the culture, more of a Eurocentric culture represented here. We have a calf in the Naked Heart. And here is your Page of Pentacles in the Green Witch. So with the connection to the earth and throughout the Suit of Pentacles in the courts, we have little movement. Things, if they do move, they move rather slowly, and they're very gentle and generally cool and soft. And here we have this youthful Page of Pentacles who's using his hands, which is very common in the Page of Pentacles cards. You'll often see the Page of Pentacles doing something with her hands. And here he is working, creating a pentacle. He's adding some of his magic to the pentacle. It looks like there are some wood shavings here as well too, so he has carved this himself. And I think this is very much an energy of loving to do something with your hands, loving to do it by yourself. Do you remember I said this deck tends to have a less than youthful princess and prince? And I just want to show you the difference, the contrast between the Maker Princess and the Maker Queen. So here she is in the earth, and she's connected to the crystals and learning about the energy of the earth. You see the sun in the background, and if there is an element of water or lunar energy, it's very much in the background. But here with the Maker Queen, it looks very much like a Temperance card. She has brought all of these elements into balance. So she has her connection with the earth. She is a tree herself. She's one with the tree. She is a creator. You can see that here with the lotus at her yoni. And we've got the sun in the background. So what has begun with touching the earth and what has begun with being really connected to the earth has grown into something much more balanced and much more developed by the time she gets to the queen. And I think we can kind of do that same comparison with any of the Page of Pentacles and the Queen of Pentacles. So the Queen of Pentacles may have started by making sandcastles in the dirt, but she's going to evolve into something much more diverse and very well connected and very well balanced compared to the younger version of her or him. Yeah. Oh, okay. My dog is here just hitting everything. Here is the king. So I'm going to do the comparison here with the green witch cards. And here's the queen. And the Knight of Pentacles. Let's get this out of the way. So you can see the family of the Pentacles in the Green Witch Tarot. Everybody is moving slowly or seated. And there's a sense of contentedness. There's a sense of being comfortable with being still. This is a very earth-centric, stable family, and a lovely family to be around. And they don't like to move too fast. You know, this might be the kind of family who vacations at the same place every single year and always goes back to the family cabin. And it's a beautiful, warm place where you can smell bread baking in the oven and dinner's always made by hand. There's never any takeout food, and you just feel really well nourished and well cared for. And so that energy is beginning to develop in the youngest member of the suit of Pentacles. Now let's contrast her with the Page of Chalices, or the Page of Water. And here's a good example of where there are some obvious differences and also similarities, and this is why it can become very, very confusing. So here we have the Page of Pentacles, who is indoors, close to home, comfortable with the home, comfortable with the hearth. We have the Earth page, but he's not outside in the earth, he's inside. So you can see that, that could be very, very confusing. Here we have the Page of Chalices. She's next to the water. She's drawing and painting the element of water. She also has that element of creativity. We see the element of creativity here, right? So that's why people get confused. But I want you to just kind of leave that for a moment and kind of go to the big picture. What happens if you slightly blur your vision? What is the difference in feeling between the Child of Pentacles and the Child of Cups? They feel different. They look different. And I think 90% of the time, the artists really, really get that. And you get this kind of, this is definitely more static. This young calf is on the ground. He's sitting down. He's resting, right? There's that real connection to the earth kind of energy. The Child of Cups is equally connected to the earth, but she moves. She's more fluid. She has more ease with everything that is connected to water. She is more intuitive. She's more emotional. She's more sensitive. All of these things. And she would not be able to connect with her emotions. She would not be able to connect with the painting if she were inside, because that intuition is supported by the element of earth. And so there's an important quality, an important aspect of all of the pages is to really understand how the element of earth works with their element of their suit. And it's not always clear and it's not always obvious in every deck, but it's just something to really keep in the back of your mind. The other thing that I want to point out here, which can be tricky at times, because here we have the element of earth and the element of water. And what happens when we mix earth with water? It can, on the shadow side, get very, very sticky and muddy. And this might be the child who is also prone to depression and prone to not wanting to go outside and not wanting to be with other people. They might be so much in their intuition or into their magic or into their emotions that it just becomes very, very difficult to navigate. So that's another thing just to kind of to keep in your mind. And also, I want you to go to the opposite. Okay, so which is the court card that is not the element of earth, but is the element of water? All right, and so I want you to think of who is the earth water one, and what is the relationship between the Child of Cups and the earth water. I think this is also an important thing to play with and to bring up the contrasting pairs. Here we have water earth and here we have earth water. And to kind of look at the evolution and the development and the different qualities and characteristics of these two quartz. So the Child of Cups in contrast with the Mother of Pentacles. And remembering that the Mother of Pentacles is older, wiser, more experienced, and has been playing with both the element of earth and the element of water for a lot longer. And so that's why the Child of Cups can kind of get lost in her element. Okay, I don't want to get ahead of myself. So let's get all of the pages of cups out here. There we have the Green Witch, Page of Chalices. Here's the Dancer Princess, so the Page of Cups from the Tarot of She, dancing on the back of the horse, playing in the water. That's just such a great card. Gift of expression. So when we're looking at expression, not so much the vocabulary and the communication, but more the artistic elements, the gift of dance, right? The gift of expressing beauty. And that is mirrored here very much in the Green Witch Tarot. And here's the Daughter of Water from the New Era Elements. The reason I wanted to include this deck, or a deck that has a close-up image of the quartz, is so that you can understand how to pick up the same kind of messages and the same kind of elements when there isn't a background, when there is less being, when it's less obvious. If we contrast this Daughter of Water with the daughter who was focused on the sword, there's quite a different energy. You can see that while she is also focused on something and her eyes are open, her focus is internal. It's a very different energy than the focus that she has here on the sword. So this is a clue to her intuition. She's not looking at you. She's looking, this is very much an internal gaze. And there's little clues, you know, you might pick up on the seashell element. You might get a clue from the waves in the background. But just by looking at her gaze and the expression on her face, you can tell that she is in a form of meditation. As opposed to this daughter who wants to not talk to you, but talk with you and create a relationship with you. There's passion and communication in a very, very different way than we talk about communication with this suit. This is about connection. It's about relationship. It's about people. Okay, and it's also about adventure and creativity and all those kind of things, but there's a very, very different energy. Her energy goes within. Her energy also goes within, but it's a different energy. Her energy is focused outward. And the Daughter of Earth is also focused outward. She wants to be in community. She wants to be in communication. So that's another subtle difference between these four daughters, between these four young, youthful perceptions, right? So we have engagement outwards, and both of these we have engagement inwards. Oops, I think I forgot to hit record. All right, let's try that again. We can also see the external focus here. So the warrior princess engaged outwards, right? She's active. She's participating in an external way, much like the maker princess, who's also engaged outwards, and she's looking straight at you. So these two deck creators are not communicating with each other, but they have that same kind of energy, right? So the pentacles and the fire are engaged externally, as opposed to the element of air and water, which are engaged more internally. And I think sometimes there's confusion there as well, because these two suits, the court cards, tend to both be quite intuitive and quite reflective. And so there can be an overlap here. And so I just want you to be aware of that is a natural overlap, and that none of these energies exist in isolation. There's always, something else going on. And that's why often we need to pull a clarifying card, is because when the energy is overlapping and it's not clear, and we're looking for a really, kind of direct, clear answer to a question, then that can be kind of tricky. So the last thing I want to just have a look at is the element of water across a suit. So we're going to go back to cups, and here we have the princess of water, the dancer princess, the page of water, the page of cups, who is the gift of expression. She is the very intuitive child. She's the daydreamer. She's probably the painter, the artistic one. She loves to be outside as well too, but it's quite different from the earth element of the child of pentacles. Here she is with next to the dancer mother. I'll just move these out of the way. So the dancer mother in this deck is called the gift of truth, which you would expect to see on the queen of air, or the queen of, it's called the dreamer queen in this deck. But here she is immersed in the water, and the wisdom that she has gained, the experience that she has gained through her expression, through the physical expression, through playing, and through the practice of being with the element and working and living and all of that within her element, she's now able to find some clarity with that. And so the queen of water is not overly emotional, even though she is the water, double water. She is experienced in her element. She is able to create in her element. She is the full manifestation of the positive qualities of the element of water in a softer, creative way. So you'll see that there's a lot of water here, but it doesn't appear to be chaotic. There's a balance between what looks a little stormier on the outside and what is on the inside. And it's just really beautiful. It's just drawn really beautifully in the Tarot of the She. And then here's her counterpart. So the more active energy is engaged with other elemental aspects of the water. Remember that the kings are leaders, and we'll get to the kings in another video. But it is, it just feels so very, very different. Even though they share this connection of intuition and comfort and I want to say comfort in emotions. This is the kind of family who's okay sharing their emotions. I don't know if you watched the series Grace and what's it called? Frankie and Grace. Frankie's family. This is Frankie's family here. 100%. And here we have the dancer prince. And here in this deck, he's called the gift of passion, which you would normally, for me, I would associate with the suit of fire, because I think of passion and the creativity and the fertility. And we didn't talk about the sexual energy as well that comes from the suit of fire. But the passion here comes through the emotions and the poetry and the painting. And so this is a different kind of passion from the passion of fire. but they can, of course, share the word. It's just a word. I mean, mustn't get hung up on the lingo, on the keywords, or the lingo in the guidebook. It's a matter of really kind of understanding the difference between all of the princesses, understanding the family that they come from, and understanding how they will evolve and how and what overlaps among the court, all 16 of the courts, really. So I don't know if that has made you more confused or that has cleared something up, but I would really appreciate your comments and questions below, and that will kind of help me as I move forward in the next video, which I'm going to do about the knights and the suns. So thank you for watching, and as always, I wish you well. Namaste.